The wind cuts across the African savanna like a blade, carrying with it the scent of death and opportunity. Kesi crouches behind a cluster of acacia trees, his calloused fingers gripping something that will change the course of human history forever. A sharpened stone, deliberately crafted, purposefully shaped. This moment, 2.6 million years ago, marks the birth of technology itself. But right now, all Kesi knows is hunger. His stomach gnaws at him with relentless fury. For 3 days, the small band of early hominids has found nothing but withered roots and the occasional insect. The seasonal rains have failed, and the usual gathering spots lie barren under an unforgiving sun. Behind him, 8 other members of his group huddle in whatever shade they can find. Elderly Nuru, whose wisdom has kept them alive through countless hardships, young Amara, with her infant clinging desperately to her chest, and Django, whose powerful frame belies the fear flickering in his dark eyes. But ahead of them, across a stretch of golden grassland, dotted with the bleached bones of less fortunate creatures, stands their salvation and their potential doom. A massive woolly mammoth, separated from its herd by some stroke of fortune or fate. The beast towers nearly 12 feet tall, its curved tusks gleaming like ivory spears in the afternoon light. Coarse, reddish-brown hair cascades down its flanks like a living curtain, and each step it takes sends tremors through the earth that Kesi can feel in his bones. This is madness. Every instinct screaming through millions of years of evolution tells him to run, to hide, to find smaller prey. His ancestors were scavengers, followers, creatures who survived by avoiding confrontation with anything larger than a gazelle. Yet something deeper drives him forward, a spark of innovation that separates him from every creature that has walked this earth before. The tool in his hand represents weeks of experimentation, countless failures, and painful cuts as he learned to strike stone against stone with just the right angle, just the right force. Most of his attempts had produced nothing but useless fragments, but this one has a keen edge that can slice through hide like no claw or tooth ever could. He's tested it on fallen branches, on the tough skin of dead animals they've scavenged. It works. But a mammoth? That's an entirely different proposition. Nuru approaches on silent feet, his weathered face etched with concern and something that might be pride. The old patriarch has watched Kesi's strange obsession with stone shaping, sometimes with disapproval, sometimes with curiosity. Now, faced with starvation, even he must acknowledge that desperate times call for desperate innovations. "The beast will crush you before you get close enough to use that thing," Nuru whispers, his voice barely audible above the rustling grass. "We should wait for it to die naturally, then drive off the scavengers." Kesi shakes his head, his jaw set with determination that surprises even himself. "We might wait forever. Look at it, strong, healthy, in its prime. We'll be bones in the dust before that mammoth shows any sign of weakness." The truth hangs heavy between them. Their situation is dire beyond measure. Amara's infant has grown listless, its cries weak and infrequent. Django, despite his size, moves with the cautious gait of someone conserving every ounce of energy. They're not just hungry, they're dying, slowly but surely, victim to a drought that has lasted far longer than anyone anticipated. A sudden trumpet blast from the mammoth sends birds exploding from nearby trees in a chaos of wings and panicked calls. The massive creature has caught their scent, its trunk raised high, sampling the air with ancient wariness. For a moment that stretches into eternity, predator and prey regard each other across the vast expanse of grassland. The mammoth's small, intelligent eyes seem to measure Kesi and find him wanting, just another insignificant primate in a world full of genuine threats. But Kesi sees something else in that gaze: recognition. The mammoth knows they're there, knows they're watching, but doesn't feel threatened enough to flee. It's a miscalculation that will echo through the ages, though neither creature can possibly comprehend the magnitude of this moment. "If I fail," Kesi murmurs to Nuru, "take the others east toward the waterholes. Don't wait for me." The plan, such as it is, forms in his mind with crystalline clarity born of desperation. He cannot overpower this beast. No single human ever could. But he doesn't need to overpower it. He needs to wound it, to slow it down, to introduce enough injury that infection or blood loss will do what brute force cannot. It's a strategy that will become the foundation of human hunting for millennia to come. But right now, it's simply the only option that doesn't guarantee immediate death by starvation. Moving with a stealth learned through years of evading larger predators, Kesi begins to circle around the mammoth's left flank. The creature continues to graze, pulling up massive clumps of grass with its versatile trunk, but its ears flick constantly, tracking every sound across the savanna. One misplaced step, one crack of a dried branch, and this hunt will end before it truly begins. The afternoon sun beats down mercilessly, and sweat mingles with dust on Kesi's skin as he creeps closer. 20 yards, 15, 10. The mammoth smell fills his nostrils now, a rich, musky odor mixed with the green scent of crushed vegetation. Its breathing comes in deep, rhythmic rumbles that seem to synchronize with his own racing heartbeat. Behind him, he can sense rather than see his family watching in terrified fascination. They've never attempted anything like this before. Their kind has always been opportunistic, taking what nature provides rather than actively pursuing such dangerous prey. But nature has provided nothing, and innovation has become their only ally against extinction. The mammoth shifts its weight, and for a heart-stopping moment Kesi thinks he's been discovered. He freezes completely, not even daring to breathe, as the massive head swings in his general direction. Seconds crawl by like hours. A bead of sweat rolls down his spine, tickling unbearably, but he doesn't move a muscle. Finally, apparently satisfied that any threat is imaginary, the mammoth returns to its meal. Now comes the critical moment. Kesi grips his crude but revolutionary tool and makes his decision. Rather than attempting to reach a vital organ, an impossibility given the creature's size and the limitations of his weapon, he aims for the mammoth's rear leg, just above the ankle, where he's observed a network of veins close to the surface during his careful study of the animal over the past hour. The attack, when it comes, is swift and brutal. Kesi lunges from concealment with a war cry that surprises him with its ferocity, driving the sharpened stone deep into the mammoth's leg with every ounce of strength his compact frame can muster. The tool penetrates deeper than he dared hope, and warm blood immediately begins flowing over his hands. The mammoth's reaction is explosive and immediate. It trumpets in pain and rage, a sound so loud and primal that it seems to shake the very foundations of the earth. The massive creature spins with shocking agility, its trunk lashing out like a living whip. Kesi barely manages to duck under the first swing, but the second catches him across the chest and sends him tumbling through the grass with enough force to drive the air from his lungs. Stars explode across his vision as he rolls to a stop, gasping and fighting to regain his feet. The mammoth advances with murder in its ancient eyes, each step a thunderclap of impending doom. Its wounded leg leaves a trail of crimson drops in the dust, but the injury seems only to have enraged rather than slowed the beast. Kesi scrambles backward on hands and knees, his revolutionary tool lost somewhere in the tall grass. The mammoth raises one massive foot, and for a moment that stretches into infinity, he stares up at his approaching death. The shadow of that enormous appendage blots out the sun, and he can see every wrinkle in the thick grey skin, every particle of dust and debris clinging to the coarse hair. But salvation comes from an unexpected source. Django, overcome by some combination of loyalty and desperate courage, charges in from the side with a large rock clutched in both hands. His assault wouldn't normally pose any threat to a creature of the mammoth's size, but the timing is perfect. The rock strikes the wounded leg at precisely the moment the mammoth tries to shift weight to complete its attack on Kesi, and the combination of pain and disrupted balance sends the giant stumbling sideways. The brief respite gives Kesi time to roll clear and regain his footing, but their situation remains desperate. The mammoth recovers quickly, its rage now focused on this new threat. Django tries to flee, but his burst of heroic courage has left him exposed in open ground with nowhere to hide. What happens next will be retold around countless fires for generations to come, though the specific details will vary with each telling. In some versions, it's pure luck. In others, it's the intervention of ancestral spirits. But the truth is both simpler and more remarkable. It's the birth of coordinated hunting strategy. As the mammoth pursues Django across the grassland, Kesi spots his tool glinting in a patch of scattered stones. Without conscious thought, he retrieves it and begins following the trail of blood drops left by their wounded quarry. The injury is taking its toll, not enough to stop the massive creature, but sufficient to slow it fractionally and leave an easily tracked path. Behind them, Nuru has organized the rest of the group with the tactical brilliance that has kept them alive through countless dangers. Rather than fleeing as Kesi suggested, they've spread out in a rough semicircle, using whatever rocks and sticks they can find to create noise and confusion whenever the mammoth tries to focus on any single target. The chase continues for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes. The wounded mammoth charges first at Django, then at Amara as she desperately tries to shield her infant, then back toward Kesi as he attempts another strike at the bleeding leg. Each time, the beast's attention shifts, just as one member of the group faces imminent destruction, saved by the coordinated actions of the others. But this tactic cannot continue indefinitely. The mammoth may be wounded and increasingly tired, but it's still capable of killing any one of them with a single blow. Worse, the commotion has attracted attention from across the savanna. In the distance, Kesi can see hyenas gathering, drawn by the scent of blood and the promise of an easy meal. Soon they'll have more than one predator to worry about. The end, when it comes, is both anticlimactic and profound. The mammoth, weakened by blood loss and exhaustion, stumbles while attempting to charge at Nuru. What should have been a simple recovery becomes a catastrophic fall as the injured leg gives way completely. The massive creature crashes to the ground with an impact that seems to shake the entire world, sending up a cloud of dust that momentarily obscures everything in a choking brown fog. When the air clears, the mammoth lies motionless, its great chest rising and falling in increasingly shallow breaths. The combination of the fall, the blood loss, and sheer exhaustion has finally overwhelmed even its tremendous vitality. Kesi approaches cautiously, his tool raised, but there's no need for further violence. The giant's eyes, once filled with rage and ancient wisdom, now hold only resignation and the gathering darkness of approaching death. What follows transforms everything. As the sun begins to set over the African plains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and red, 9 early humans work together to butcher their prize using tools they create and refine on the spot. Sharp stones split bones to access marrow. Pointed sticks help separate hide from meat. Every scrap of the massive carcass is utilized with an efficiency that would have been impossible without their revolutionary technology. For the first time in their evolutionary history, humans are not merely scavengers picking through the leftovers of more successful predators. They are hunters, innovators, creatures capable of bringing down prey many times their size through intelligence, cooperation, and technology. The implications stretch far beyond this single moment of triumph. As they feast that night around fires built with techniques passed down from their ancestors, their bellies full for the first time in weeks, profound changes begin to take hold. The extra protein and fat from their unprecedented meal will fuel brain growth that will make their descendants capable of even greater innovations. The success of their cooperative hunting strategy will become embedded in their cultural memory, passed down through generations and refined into increasingly sophisticated techniques. But perhaps most importantly, the psychological barrier has been shattered. Where once they saw themselves as small, vulnerable creatures at the mercy of a hostile world, they now understand their true potential. They are toolmakers, problem solvers, beings capable of reshaping their environment to suit their needs rather than merely adapting to whatever nature provides. Kesi sits apart from the celebration, turning his blood-stained tool over and over in his hands. He doesn't yet understand that he holds the key to humanity's future, that this crude piece of sharpened stone represents the first step on a journey that will lead to agriculture, civilization, space travel, and technologies beyond his wildest imagination. All he knows is that it worked. When faced with an impossible challenge, when starvation threatened to claim his entire family, innovation provided a solution. Around him, the African night comes alive with the sounds of countless creatures going about their ancient business. Somewhere in the darkness, lions roar their territorial claims. Hyenas laugh as they compete over the scraps of less successful hunters. The great wheel of predator and prey continues its eternal rotation, seemingly unchanged by the events of this single day. But everything has changed. In the space of a few hours, one small group of early humans has crossed a threshold from which there will be no return. They have tasted the power that comes from deliberately shaping the world around them, from refusing to accept limitations imposed by nature, from daring to dream that things could be different, and then making those dreams reality. The mammoth's massive tusks gleam white in the firelight, and Kesi finds himself studying their curved perfection with new eyes. Could they be shaped like stone? Could they become tools even more effective than the one that brought down their original owner? The questions multiply in his mind, each one opening new possibilities that his ancestors never could have conceived. As the stars wheel overhead in patterns that have guided travelers for countless millennia, the first chapter in humanity's technological revolution comes to a close. But it's only the beginning of a story that will eventually encompass the entire planet and reach toward distant suns. Tonight, 9 early humans sleep with full bellies and dreams of tomorrow's possibilities. Tomorrow, they'll wake up as the first members of a species that refuses to accept the word impossible. The mammoth's sacrifice has purchased more than mere survival. It has bought the future itself, though none of them can possibly comprehend the magnitude of what they've accomplished. They are no longer just another species of African primate struggling to survive in a harsh and unforgiving world. They are human, and the age of humanity has finally begun.